The studio lights felt harsher than usual that night, glowing with an intensity that made every tear impossible to hide. The tell-all stage, normally buzzing with sharp comebacks, nervous laughter, and dramatic interruptions, was wrapped in an unfamiliar silence. Even the audience seemed to sense that something heavier than reality TV drama was about to unfold. Manon sat at the edge of the couch, hands clasped tightly in her lap. Her knuckles were pale, her breathing slow but deliberate, as if each inhale required courage. She had always carried herself with confidence throughout the season, bold, outspoken, and unwilling to let anyone control her narrative. But tonight, there was a fragility about her that no one had ever seen before. The host glanced at her gently. "Manon," they said, voice softer than usual, "you told producers you have something important to share. Whenever you're ready." For a moment, she didn't speak. Anthony, seated a few feet away, shifted uncomfortably. Their relationship had already weathered storms, distance, trust issues, cultural differences, but whatever this was seemed bigger. He looked at her, searching for a hint, but she avoided his eyes. Manon swallowed hard. This wasn't easy to decide, she began, her voice trembling despite her effort to steady it. "I've gone back and forth for weeks about whether I should say this publicly, but my life has been an open book since joining this journey, and I think the truth deserves to be heard." The room grew impossibly quiet. She blinked rapidly, fighting tears. "When I came on this show, I believed love could conquer everything. I believed that if two people wanted each other badly enough, they'd find a way, and for a while, I thought Anthony and I were proof of that." Anthony's jaw tightened. "But somewhere along the way," she continued, "I realized I had been losing pieces of myself." A soft murmur rippled through the cast. Manon's voice cracked. She paused, pressing her lips together before the words escaped. "I was trying so hard to make us work that I stopped asking if I was okay, if I was happy." Anthony leaned forward. "Manon, we talked about this." She gently raised a hand, not looking at him. "Please, let me finish." It wasn't anger in her tone, it was exhaustion. "I don't regret loving you," she said quietly, "but love shouldn't feel like a constant battle for your voice." Tears spilled down her cheeks now, catching the studio lights like tiny diamonds. "So tonight," she whispered, "I need to be honest. Anthony, I can't continue this relationship." The words landed like thunder. Anthony froze. Someone across the stage muttered, "Wow," under their breath. "You're breaking up with me? Here?" he asked, disbelief flooding his expression. Manon shook her head slightly. "This didn't start here. It started months ago, in the quiet moments when I realized I felt alone, even when you were beside me." Anthony ran a hand through his hair, clearly struggling to process. "Why didn't you tell me it was this bad?" "I tried," she replied. But every conversation turned into another argument about who was right instead of what was hurting. The host leaned forward. "Manon, what was the moment you knew this was the end?" She inhaled slowly. "There was a night," she said, "when we were sitting at dinner. You were talking about our future, where we'd live, what our life would look like, and I remember smiling. But inside, I felt this overwhelming sadness." Her voice softened. "It hit me that I was more afraid of disappointing you than I was excited about marrying you, and that's not how forever should feel." Anthony's eyes glistened now. "You never gave us a real chance to fix it," he said hoarsely. "I gave us every piece of me," she answered, "and when there was nothing left, I realized staying would mean betraying myself." The audience sat motionless, many visibly emotional. One cast member wiped her eyes. Another reached for Anthony's shoulder, but he barely noticed. "So what now?" he asked quietly. Manon hesitated, then delivered the part no one was prepared for. "I'm leaving everything behind," she said. "The plans, the move, the wedding discussions, all of it. I need to rediscover who I am outside of this relationship." Anthony stared at the floor. "You're just Walking away? I'm choosing myself, she corrected gently. Silence stretched across the stage again, long, heavy, unforgettable. Then Anthony spoke, his voice breaking. I loved you the only way I knew how. I know, she whispered, and I loved you deeply. Sometimes love just isn't enough when two people grow in different directions. For the first time, they looked directly at each other. Years of hope, arguments, laughter, and promises seemed to pass between them in that single glance. I never wanted to hurt you, she added. And yet, he said with a sad smile, this is probably the most painful moment of my life. Manon covered her mouth as a sob escaped. This is hard for me too, she said through tears. But staying in something that breaks you slowly, that's harder. The host allowed the silence to breathe, resisting the urge to fill it. Because some moments don't need commentary. They need space. Finally, Anthony nodded faintly, as if accepting a truth he couldn't change. I hope you find what you're looking for, he said. Her expression crumpled. I hope you do too. For a split second, it looked like he might reach for her hand, but instead, he clasped his own tightly together. Across the stage, the cast sat stunned. This wasn't explosive drama. There were no accusations, no screaming matches. Just heartbreak. Real, raw, unavoidable. The kind you can't edit into something lighter. The host spoke gently. Manon, what does the future look like for you now? She wiped her tears and managed a fragile smile. For the first time in a long time, it looks like freedom. Terrifying freedom, but freedom nonetheless. She exhaled. I want to learn how to be whole on my own. I want to stop apologizing for needing more. And someday, I want a love that feels like peace instead of survival. Anthony closed his eyes briefly. You deserve that, he admitted. The tension softened, not into reconciliation, but into understanding. Sometimes closure doesn't come from fixing things. Sometimes it comes from finally telling the truth. As the cameras pulled back, capturing the entire stage, it was clear this tell-all would be remembered differently from the rest. Not for the fights, not for the shocking secrets, but for a woman brave enough to choose herself, even when it shattered her heart in the process. And as Manon sat there, tear-streaked yet strangely lighter, one thing became undeniable. Walking away isn't always a sign of failure. Sometimes it's the strongest act of love you can give to yourself.